Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll talk real briefly about some of the risks to patient data, to data in general, based on social media, the social media landscape, how companies are doing business now in social media sphere, and what some of those new threats are, the expanding threat vector to data, whether it's patient data, whether it's your personal data, doesn't really matter what it is anymore. So I think we all know the basics about HIPAA privacy and security. It's been around for a number of years. It's been expanding. The new audit protocol just came out in April. These are all types of steps we have to go through to protect patient information through security and privacy breach notification. It's pretty huge in terms of the security aspects of it. When we do risk assessments for hospitals, for any kind of healthcare, it's about 600 or 700 questions we have to walk through to see if you're protecting patient data properly. So what are real threats now? Because of social media, the first is your employees. How many times have we seen employees sharing information, taking a picture of someone and posting it out on the internet? They've become one of your biggest risks to patient security and privacy of information. Two, the customers. Customers now have a lot of power, right? They didn't have that before. They can put something out there. It can be read. It can go viral. So they've become a risk to you as well. They're not just your customers anymore. They could potentially be a threat to you, a threat to data. They could steal information from you. Lots of ways a customer now has become a challenge. Mobile. Everything we do now, there's some mobile component to it, right? It's connected to our networks. It's connected to our databases. Our ERM is on these things now. So how is that protected? What's the threat from the mobile landscape? And after this, I'll go through a couple of interesting examples of where these threats are today and real life, what's happening in the real world. Competitors. It's so easy now to figure out the information about you personally, about your company. Every time I go to speak to a client, what do we do first? We Google the client, we see who we're talking to. I go to LinkedIn, I see if they've got a page up there. So there's so many ways to capture data, to gather information about you and your customer base and everything about how you do your business. So it's becoming easier and easier to do, leads to easier attacks. Hacking. Well, hacking has really evolved, right? We used to have to be super smart and spend 20 years learning how to hack. Now you can pick it up real easily on a YouTube video. It'll show you step by step how to hack into a website and steal information. There are automated bots now that you can rent an attack network somewhere in Asia for $10 an hour and point it at the site you want to attack. It's that simple. It's that easy, and it's become such an automated process. It's real easy for someone to hack you. Location-based risk. Everyone knows where I am. My phone company knows where I am. Everybody on my Facebook knows where I am. So it's real easy to track where you are. Now, you checked into a hospital. You checked into a doctor's office. It's a lot of information that you're giving away. And if we're all on mobile now, the phone actually knows it, and you may not even know the phone knows it. Okay? And lastly, brand jacking. What is brand jacking? It's taking over your presence. It's stealing your identity, and your identity could be personal identity, or it could be your corporate identity. I set up a fake LinkedIn company page that looks just like your page, and I can capture people coming to it, and they're connecting to me because they think it's a real company. So brand jacking is very, very easy now to do because everything about you is out there. And I can create and throw up a site pretty easily that looks similar to your site. So that's a real risk we see from the smallest companies to the largest ones. I've seen fake Bank of America whole websites dedicated to Bank of America. Looks exactly like the Bank of America site. You go there, you think you're logging in, and you've just given them your bank account information. So it's a real risk today. So let's talk about how these are actually operationalized. Assuming some people in the audience are using Pokemon Go. If you didn't see the story a week or two ago, where the company Niantic was capturing literally all your data on that phone. right? They had your email passwords. Anything you were doing on that phone, they could capture, and they were capturing it. Now, they fixed it, right? But who knows what a fix really means. And where was all this data being stored? Where is Niantic? I think they're in Japan. Where are their servers? Somewhere in Asia. We have no idea where that data is today. So that's a huge risk you've just given to some random company somewhere around the world, giving full access to your phone. And think about what you have on your phone. Would you really want people to see what you've got on your phone? This is becoming really there's a whole underground economy now for hacking and data theft, right? This example here, the medical software company got hacked. Now, if the software company gets hacked, all their clients' data is now at risk, right? I'm sure we all use a cloud-based EMR system or some kind of cloud-based services, right? Whether it's just using Google email or you're using Office 365 or you're using Dropbox, whatever it is to store your data, it's somewhere in the cloud. If that cloud provider gets hacked, all of their customers could potentially be at risk. So, how do you know what that provider you're using, what's their security like? Can you lose all your data because you put it up on Dropbox somewhere? This is an interesting one, and again, I mentioned it earlier. You've given all your information to whether your doctor, the cloud-based services your doctor uses, right? Who owns that information, right? Who owns your Facebook pictures that you post up there, you or Facebook? So it's a real risk that you don't know where your data is anymore. Have you given permission? We go into the doctor's office and we sign a privacy statement saying, the doctor will keep your information private. Well, this is a great example of them not doing it. And how do you follow up? How do you protect yourself? It's pretty difficult. This is a really interesting one. Facebook. They've always said from the get-go there is no privacy, right? Mark Zuckerberg doesn't believe in privacy to begin with. So you put all this information out there. Now whole companies are putting up corporate pages, sharing information, using it as an actual vehicle to do business, not just to do personal interactions. So who's protecting your information now, right? It's the same theme really, right? Where are we putting our data? And how do we know that they are securing our data properly? How do we know that they're not misusing our information, as in this example? Okay. Now, with the HIPAA laws, HIPAA security and privacy, it's very stringent. So you do have a good recourse to say if a company did use your information inappropriately, but it's already out there, right? They've already stolen it, they've already used it, they've already given it away, they've already sold it to a marketing company. So it's out the door, but you can go after them based on the regulations. Okay. So lastly here, almost lastly, when LinkedIn got hacked, and I'm sure a lot of us have LinkedIn, I had to go change my password, right? But how many of you use the same password across your work email, your personal email, your log on to your network? If you're using it to do anything, I've got probably 100 accounts. I don't use 100 different passwords, right? So you can easily see how you can do vulnerability linkage, right? I hacked your LinkedIn password. The odds are you're using it somewhere else. And if I'm going after you personally or I'm going after your company, I would target all the folks in LinkedIn with company XYZ, take the passwords here, and try and log into that company with those passwords that I know. And I guarantee you it's going to work in a lot of the cases because LinkedIn is a business application now, and you're going to use it for work. You're going to use your same passwords across multiple platforms. And lastly, there's good and bad to HIPAA regulations, right? To any regulation, for that matter. During the unfortunate shooting in Orlando, the mayor was having. They didn't want to share information. They didn't want to give out the medical information, saying it's against HIPAA privacy and security. But it's actually not. They didn't understand the regulations. They didn't know that there is a workaround for it, that you can actually share the data in cases like this. So are folks really educated about what the laws really mean? How do they apply? Are you compliant or not? It's really difficult to know. So lastly, what do we do about all this, right? That's a lot of problems we see in the social media sphere, and I could talk about this for hours on end about the different types of threats you're going to see in social media platforms. But it's like anything else. There's always a solution. The core of risk management is you got to follow some real good strategies, right? What are those documented security policies, procedures, and tactics that you should be following? Now, I'm sure every single person's company here has a policy, acceptable use policy. Maybe they have a security policy, maybe they don't. But it's evolving over time, right? The risks are changing, so these policies or procedures have to evolve as the environment evolves. Reputation management in the social media sphere, you want to know when somebody is attacking your brand, attacking your customers, figuring that out, right? It's so many ways and so many platforms out there. How do you know they just, hacked a subsidiary, stolen, a whole database of customer records? They may be talking about it in the dark web, right? We have to be able to be proactive and go out and search ourselves, search our companies, search potential loss based on our company and our customers. What's the response plan, right? If you have no plan and you do lose patient data, you do lose a whole database, well, you don't want to go running around and doing things ad hoc. So what's that action plan? What's our emergency response scenario for data loss, not just, a building blowing up or on fire? Well, this is the same. There's a different threat vector, but it is a threat, and we need a real action response plan for when you're going to get hacked and data lost. And lastly, what's that training program going to be like? Train your folks to protect information. It's not just, hey, it's fun, we're all on Facebook now. Well, that's a real threat out there now. How do we train them? How do we make this part of the education process about, okay, don't here's acceptable use, but now here's another thing you have to worry about. Let's train them properly. Education is one of the most effective uses of your security dollars if you're going to go down that route. And lastly, be consistent. Test yourself. Do risk assessments every year, every quarter. You have to know if you're at risk, because the bad guys sure are going to know if you're at risk, and they're going to find it, okay? So be really proactive about looking at the risks of how you do business, how your data is transferred into and out of your networks, etc. So be very proactive in your testing scenarios. Okay? Thank you.